Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are cutting straight through the noise to look at a threat that is, well, it's deeply concerning. And not because of some wild zero-day exploit, but because it really challenges the fundamental trust we have in the Mac platform.
Exactly. For years, we've all relied on gatekeepers as Apple's sort of digital bouncer. It's a thing that checks if an app comes from a known identified developer. But we're diving into these findings from Jam Threat Labs on a new variant of the MacSync Stealer malware. And it has, well, it's figured out how to just walk right past that bouncer.
And this is what's so important for you to understand. This isn't just another malware alert. This new MacSync variant, it's not fighting the system. It's masquerading as a trusted part of the system.
Right.
It gets in by presenting itself as a properly code-signed and, this is the critical part, a notarized Apple application.
And that notarization, that's supposed to be Apple's final stamp of approval.
Yeah.
It's their proof to you that the software has been scanned and it's not malicious.
So it's like having a perfect forgery of a backstage pass.
It's the ultimate strategic shift. I mean, threat actors have realized they don't need to spend huge amounts of money and resources trying to crack code or find some tiny vulnerability. They're just abusing the identity system itself, the whole infrastructure of trust. They found a back door that was left open by design, not by a flaw.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our mission today is to really get into the two big parts of this attack. First, there's this, frankly, shocking idea of undermining trust through fake identity. And second, the technical changes in the malware itself. We need to figure out what this all means for that, that digital contract between Apple and all of us.
Well, to start with that strategic shift, Gatekeepers relies so heavily on something called public key infrastructure, PKI. When you download an app from, say, anywhere but the App Store, if it's not signed and notarized, that's when Gatekeeper throws up that big warning.
The unidentified developer one? Yeah, we've all seen that.
Exactly. This new MacSync completely skips that. There's no friction.
And that's the core technical change Jam spotted, right? This isn't some sloppy script. It looks like a genuine, compiled, notarized application written in Swift. Apple's own language.
That's it. So to the operating system, it looks and feels exactly like a legit utility from a verified company.
And if the user downloads it and sees no warning, their guard just drops.
Instantly. The operating system is telling you, hey, I checked this developer's ID, and they're legit. So the user just assumes the software itself is safe. The whole attack hinges on the victim trusting that green checkmark Apple put there.
Okay, but I have to push back a little here. I mean, this is Apple's security infrastructure we're talking about. They must have, know your customer protocols, right? Why is it strategically easier for a criminal group to just get a fake developer certificate than it is to buy a zero-day on the black market?
Oh, that is the perfect question, because it gets right to the economics of modern cybercrime. Look at it this way. Buying a certificate is a one-time cost, maybe a few $1,000s, and it gives you a license to distribute malware until you get caught. A good, reliable zero-day that can be 6, even 7 figures, and it has a very short shelf life. So the return on investment for identity fraud is just. It's vastly superior.
So the money trail favors undermining trust over finding a technical flaw. What did the researchers actually find? What are the ways these actors are getting their hands on these legitimate credentials? It can't be that simple.
Well, they laid out 3 main supply chains, which really shows how organized these groups are. First, and maybe the simplest, is just outright theft. They steal existing developer certificates from clean accounts that have already been vetted.
So stealing a key that's already been approved. Got it.
Second, they buy compromised developer accounts. You can find them on dark web forums, often sold as a whole package deal. And those accounts usually have some history, which makes them look even more stable and legitimate.
And the third way, which you touched on, is the most direct attack on the system.
Right. They set up entirely fake companies. They use stolen or fraudulent identities just to go through Apple's official process and get the signing credentials in the first place.
What's so fascinating to me here is the pivot. The focus has shifted from finding technical bugs like, a buffer overflow or something to exploiting bureaucracy. They realized that human processes and identity verification at scale, well, that's the weakest link.
It completely breaks the whole concept of a digital signature, doesn't it? If the very system designed to verify who built the software can be tricked, then the signature itself becomes, well, pretty much meaningless as a security guarantee.
It is a serious step backward. It forces you to operate like you're in the Wild West, even when the software has that Apple seal of approval.
It absolutely is. And this brings us to the payload itself. Because they spent all this effort and money getting this veneer of legitimacy, They were confident enough to pack a much heavier, more complex payload into the application.
Okay, let's get into that, because this new version is a huge departure from what came before. The earlier MacSync variants were all about stealth, right?
Correct. Old MacSync was built to be super lightweight. It ran as modular payloads directly in memory. That meant it had almost no disk footprint, so it was incredibly hard for traditional antivirus to even spot it. It was surgical.
But this new one, it's the opposite of surgical. Jam noted this version has a massive disk image, 25.5 megabytes.
Yeah.
Why? Why the huge size increase? I mean, that feels counterintuitive if you're trying to be stealthy. Doesn't a big file make it easier to detect?
It's a calculated trade-off. That 25.5 megabyte size suggests they've bundled almost everything they could possibly need right inside the installer. They've likely included complex tools, libraries, persistence mechanisms, maybe even custom components designed to go after very specific things like crypto wallet files.
Ah, so they become self-sufficient. They don't have to make a bunch of noisy network calls right after installation, which security software could easily flag. They just drop their entire toolkit on the system in one go.
Exactly. The initial notarized app does all the heavy lifting. It sets up backdoors, establishes persistence, and it can do a lot of that with minimal network traffic, so its initial infection stage is much, much quieter. They traded a tiny bit of stealth, the file size, for a massive gain in reliability and capability.
And that reliability is then weaponized through social engineering. How are they getting people to click on this thing in the first place?
They're relying on urgency and utility. The core tactic is impersonating popular messaging platforms or useful apps. Software that people want or need right away and might just download from a quick search result without thinking twice.
And the specific example Jam found involved an app called ZK-Call, an Estonia-based messenger service.
Right. They were leveraging the perceived need for a new, secure communication tool. The key is that the download page for this impersonated app was part of this MacSync campaign. Whether the attackers made a fake site or poisoned a real one, the notarized installer made that final step of tricking the user incredibly easy.
That really is the perfect storm. You search for an app, you find a link, maybe it's boosted through some search engine manipulation, you download the file, and your Mac doesn't even blink because it's notarized. The combination of legitimate-looking code and, solving a real user need, it just dramatically increases the chance of a successful infection.
All the barriers are down,
Mm-hmm.
psychologically and technically. The user feels safe because they think Apple vouched for the developer, even though that developer's identity was a complete fabrication.
So let's talk consequences. Once that heavy payload is installed, what is MacSync actually doing? This is where it gets really serious.
This is the so what for you, the listener. MacSync is a very sophisticated data stealer. First, it establishes backdoors for full remote control of the system. The machine is, for all intents and purposes, completely compromised.
And beyond just system control, it starts stealing. It goes after stored data, passwords, browser info. But it's really looking for one high-value target in particular.
And I think we need to linger on the cryptocurrency part for a second. For anyone who uses what's called a hot wallet, a crypto wallet stored locally on their machine, or has trading apps on their desktop, this isn't just about losing passwords. This is immediate, potentially catastrophic financial loss. MacSync is specifically designed to hunt for cryptocurrency wallet credentials, keys, and seed phrases.
And it's built for the long haul. It's not a smash and grab. It maintains persistent hidden access, so even if a user changes passwords later, those backdoors are still wide open.
And the researchers did manage to track the infrastructure behind it. They identified a server, focusgroovy.com, as the command and control, or C2, server. That's what this MacSync variant uses to pull down additional specialized payloads later on.
So the initial 25 MB payload gets them the keys to the kingdom, and then the C2 server lets them bring in the specialized safe-cracking tools depending on what they find.
Precisely. And it's worth noting that this C2 domain, focusgroovy.com, is already on the radar. Security firms like Moonlock have flagged it for phishing and other hostile activity. This isn't some new, clean server. It's part of an established hostile network.
And while the researchers know what the malware does, the exact distribution method is still a little fuzzy. They listed a few possibilities.
Yeah, they believe it's likely a combination of things working with that notarization trick. So things like malicious ad campaigns, using social media trends, and definitely search engine manipulation. The notarization makes search engine poisoning way more effective.
How so? How does notarization help with that?
Well, think about it. If a malicious app gets pushed to the top of Google, you click it, the file downloads. If that file immediately triggers the unidentified developer warning, a savvy user gets suspicious and deletes it, right? But if the file is notarized, it just installs cleanly. No warnings. The success rate of the search engine trick skyrockets because the user's suspicion is never even triggered.
So, at the end of the day, what does this all mean for the average Mac user who relies on these baked-in security features? The big takeaway here is that gatekeepers, this foundational layer of trust, is being undermined. The very certificates meant to verify identity are being stolen or faked.
The implicit security contract is broken. A notarized signature used to be a reliable signal that Apple checked the developer's ID and scanned the code.
Ah,
Now it just means the threat actor was willing to spend the money and time to get a fraudulent ID card to walk right through the front door.
which leads right into what users need to do. The advice has to be more than just be careful what you click.
Absolutely. Mac users have to be extremely vigilant about the source of the download, no matter what security prompts they do or don't see. This means if you're downloading an app, especially for messaging, crypto, anything like that from a website you've never heard of, or if it was just the top link in a generic search, you have to treat it with extreme skepticism, even if it appears legitimately signed and skips all the warnings.
The signature is no longer a guarantee of safety outside of truly trusted channels, like the official App Store or a major developer's own website where you know the URL is right. You have to verify the source before you trust the signature.
It's a new layer of skepticism that, frankly, macOS security used to make optional. Now it's pretty much mandatory.
This has been a sobering but really essential deep dive. We've covered how MacSync abuses notarization through identity fraud, the huge technical leap of its 25 MetalV payload, and its focus on high-value targets like crypto credentials.
The whole system is designed to verify identity and code. The attackers just realized the easiest path was to corrupt the identity part of that equation.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to mull over. If the technical process of code signing and notarization, which is designed to verify the developer's identity, can be so easily faked, how do operating systems adapt to verify the developer's intent? If we can't always trust who built it, we have to start finding better ways to judge what it does the second it's installed. And that's the next great challenge in platform defense. It's something to think about as you're navigating your digital world this week. Thank you for sharing your sources and for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.